93.3 CFMU. Folks, that is your MP3 of the week, courtesy of our friend Rob Sweeney. 406 and change, live on the air with us right now from his home in the U.S. of A. is Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Mr. Dennis Dunaway. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Lou. How you doing up there?
We're doing great. Welcome back to the show.
Boy, that song was cooking. Kind of funky. No, that's full throttle funky right there.
Thanks to our friend Rob Sweeney for sending that in. Congratulations to you, sir. I know that ever since we've known each other, you've been telling me about the progress of your book and then the reality of it actually happening and then, you know, everything getting it ready for the big release. And voila, here it is. There's hard copies everywhere. So how does it feel?
Oh, man, I can't believe it's happened. It's been such a long time coming. 18 years since I started writing it.
Wow. Really?
18 years. And here I was last night at the Strand bookstore in New York City in their rare books room, and the place was an extravaganza, blowout success. It was, my feet haven't touched ground yet. It's unbelievable.
It feels great, eh?
Oh, it's beyond words. It's very emotional.
Do you feel different knowing that, you know, your story is out there? Like, there's a lot of personal references and, the story that involves you and your friends, that started the Alice Cooper group. But, do you feel a little vulnerable in the fact that you've just released so much about yourself and, the history of the band?
No, not really. I'm just glad that it's out there so that people can hear, you know, an additional new angle to all of the things that the Alice Cooper group did to, you know, make happen what happened. You know, there is some vulnerability involved, but now that my daughters have read through, you know, the iffy parts, and they're fine with it, then I feel the world will be.
So you must feel that much more stronger knowing that, you know, it's family accepted now.
Yeah, like my youngest, both of my daughters wrote these amazing reviews when they finished the book, but my youngest daughter was saying that she loved the book except for the parts where she thought she was going to throw up. Her parents had SEX.
Weak stomach. Well, what made you want to write this or start writing this 18 years ago, Dennis?
Well, it had to do with my daughters. You know, they grew up with me, you know, correcting interviews that I'd heard about the Alice Cooper group. And, you know, when I would chaperone them to a concert, I'd be sitting there saying, oh, we did that a long time ago. And they finally said, Dad, write a book. And it didn't happen right away. I have Crohn's disease, and I had a long decline. I'm better now, but there was a period where it was pretty bleak, and I ended up in the hospital for a month in critical condition. They didn't think they'd be able to build my strength up enough to survive the surgery.
Wow.
And all of this snail mail came in from all over the world, and I said, wow, you know, I felt like I had been thoroughly swept under the carpet. And I'm like, wow, they really do remember me and everything. And that was great medicine for my recovery. But I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book. How can I kick the bucket if I'm writing a book? And so I started the thought process. That was Easter of 1997. 18
Wow.
years it took to write the book, longer than the group was together.
You outlasted the band. What's amazing about this band, and I've mentioned this a lot every time we play music from the Alice Cooper group on the show, is that it's music that appeals to all sorts of different people from different genres and different walks of life. Just this past week, or last week actually, at the St. Hollywood, we had the Reverend Horton Heat playing, and their drummer Scott was just raving about how incredible those first 5 or 6 records were. And then as I was talking to the guy who is setting up merch, he tells me he's really good friends of yours, a guy by the name of Sean.
Oh yes, Sean Dalton.
Sean Dalton.
He was there last night.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Sean and his wife Edie came to the book event.
Well, they were in Hamilton just last week. He was road managing Reverend Horton Heat. And what amazes me is that, like, I can't really think of too many bands other than perhaps the Beatles and the Rolling Stones that really appeal to whether it's the metalheads, the punks, the rockers. But the Alice Cooper group just seemed to gain popularity and momentum just with the fact that everybody just loved you guys. And it seemed that you really catered to everybody. But you started off as somewhat of a psychedelic band.
Well, we actually started off a garage band.
You're right.
And we were pretty popular in the Southwest. As you know, we had a song called "Don't Blow Your Mind," and we were a pretty popular group. If we played in Fort Huachuca or New Mexico, Albuquerque, or whatever, and we played that song, people got very excited. And we gave that up because we decided that hey, we could be a garage band. But that's been done. We want to do an artistic statement that's never been done, and we got very avant-garde on our first album, and then we pulled it back so that we could put some food on the table. We decided we better get a hit record and we better get some relatable songs, because if we do that, then people will buy the album, and then we can get our artistic message across to them. So that was the concept.
And yet it was so relative to so many different types of fans. And as I mentioned, there's great passages that Johnny Rotten talking about how important Love It to Death was to him.
Well, the story is, and he has confirmed this, that he was in a bar and Sex Pistols were looking for a singer. And so he went over to the jukebox and picked I'm 18, and he sang along with it, and that's how he got the gig.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, what a footnote for sure. Like, when you were in the band, Dennis, did you feel that something was incredibly different in the fact that, this band would never go away? Did it feel extra special just in comparison to a lot of the other musicians and peers that you were hanging out with?
Well, it felt different, and it felt like we were making an artistic statement. But that's because that's all we were driven to do. That was our goal. So yes, but it was intentional. Mm-hmm. We didn't feel like. It was frustrating because we were way more alienating to our original fans. That we had as the Nas and the Spiders when we were very popular. We'd go back to Phoenix and they'd go, wow, who are these guys? Especially the way we started dressing, and with the name Alice Cooper, all of a sudden all these people that really liked us are going, oh man, I don't know about this.
Manolis, who wants to be your future manager, Dennis, would like to ask you a question.
Manolis.
Hey dude, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
I have a question. Remember, we were all hanging out this scene Hollywood, and you were telling stories. I don't know if they were in the book or going to be in the book, but you ended up talking for about at least half an hour, and they were amazing stories. There was one you were telling about one club owner that didn't like the Alice Cooper band, but they had to. You were so popular that they had to book you. But do you remember that story?
Yes, and I'm going to be one of those guys that's saying, that's in the book.
Good.
It's Bill Graham you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was an amazing story.
Bill Graham really did not like us. I can't even tell you anything that he ever said about us because it's so full of explicatives. But he did not like us. In fact, when we headlined the Fillmore East and West, which we did several times, we were never at the top of the bill. He swore we would never be at the top of the bill, so he would have the opening band's names big above ours, and real little he'd have special guest Alice Cooper. But we were really the headliners.
That's funny. Out of all promoters, too.
Yeah. Well, he just saw us doing theatrics as, I think a lot of it was shifting the blame. The free love and all of that whole thing that he was such a big part of was disintegrating it on its own. It was, it was falling apart. These ideals about making the world a better place were being traded in for your next fix. And we came along doing this evil stuff, and he kind of blamed us for ruining everything. And he'd say, oh, they can do blah, blah, blah theatrics, and they can play blah, blah, blah music, but they're not blah, blah, blah doing both on my blah, blah, blah stage.
Wow. Was that part of the artistic statement that you wanted to just, like, maybe that you guys were kind of tired of the whole hippie movement, Dennis?
Well,
not so much of the musicians, but just the fact that perhaps it was just getting to be a little too phony?
Well, we made fun of everybody. We made fun of hippies. We made fun of freaks. We made fun of ourselves, but we related more to the freaks, the mothers of invention and stuff, because the hippie ideals had this hypocrisy to them at a certain point. And we weren't necessarily out to overthrow anything. We were just out to get everybody to look at us instead of somebody else.
How did it feel just revisiting all these memories from years ago, Dennis?
Oh, it was a long traveled road and full of revelations, actually, because there were things that I thought that I knew so well about each guy in the group, and then you start writing it and you start finding these certain things that you knew repeating a lot more often than you thought. You go, wow. No wonder Neil was always jumping off the top of the PA system.
And that too is in the book, right?
It's in the book.
Well, with the fact that the Alice Cooper movie just came out, the documentary not too long ago, and it's followed by this book, it just really seems that the fan now really has like the full story. It would seem, because like everybody that makes mention to Dennis Dunaway would always say that we can't wait for the book because Dennis is really going to tell the story the way it is. Like, kind of neutrally, not so much weight on one side or another, but just through the eyes of a band member that saw it all.
Well, Neil's book will get the same reaction, and if Michael writes another one, it'll get, it's basically, it's my observations, but I think I do have the advantage of that I was the quiet observer back then, and also because I'd write, if somebody said something funny or something happened, I would write it down, jot it down on a piece of, motel room stationery, and toss it in my suitcase, and I'd get home and I'd have like a million scraps of paper in my suitcase. And it's not necessarily that I went back and assembled all of those pieces of papers that I still have, but it's more that I think first of all, I think I have a good memory, and it runs in my family, but also because I was the quiet observer, and just the fact that I wrote things down helped me remember them later.
That makes total sense. I would presume that you were probably the one that documented the most out of the band.
I think I was the only one that did. And, also my wife has all of the letters that she ever wrote to her mother, which was weekly, at least weekly. And she has all of her daily diaries from all of those years. Wow,
Cindy should write a book.
Even though I think, okay, let me refer to Cindy's diary here and see if there's anything that happened that I'm not remembering. And I start reading it, and I get about a half a page in. I go, wow, I was a rat.
Dennis Dunaway is our special guest here at 93.3 CFMU, talking about his new book, Snakes, Guillotines, and Electric Chairs. We're going to tell you how you can get your hands on a copy of this book. But a couple of more questions before we let you go, Dennis. You've created music for so many years. Now you're an author. Would you ever go back to being an author, or do you think that just this whole exercise has really kind of opened up doors for potentially writing not so much just rock and roll stories, but stories of a different nature?
Well, writing a book is like swimming the Atlantic Ocean, and then you have to swim the Pacific. So right now, I don't even want to think about doing another book.
Your arms are too tired. All that swimming.
Lots of swimming. What would I write about? I don't know. I can't even think about that. Music is calling. I've been doing music all along, but there's been quite a few times when I look over at my bass while I'm typing away, and my bass is saying, "Hey, what about me?"
But it has really soaked up a lot of your time. You're talking about 18 years, but all the prep right now,
unbelievable. And I thought, and after all those years, who would have ever thought that it would have been a mad dash to the finish to meet the final deadline? And when I finally did, I thought, oh, now I can come up for air. This has been so exhausting. Nope, here comes the publicist full force, and man, it seems like I've been typing more since I finished the book. It's great, though. I mean, I've got the St. Martin's Press, Thomas Dunn. The publicists are all high-energy experts, and man, things are happening in a big way. It's very exciting.
What was the editing process like, Dennis?
Well, mostly I handed in a ton of stuff, and I just let the writer and the publisher whittle it down to what I wanted all along as an affordable book.
Right.
So I let them do it pretty much. I would say, I tried early on. They'd say, well, we have to get the words down to 90,000. You've handed in like 135, and that's after I cut it in half. and I'm like, well, okay, we can do without this section. And they're like, oh, no, I love that section. In fact, you should elaborate on that. I'm like, well, how are we going to whittle it down if you guys don't want to give anything up?
No kidding.
So finally I said, okay, you guys whittle it down, and but the one requirement I wanted, and it's not like I dropped out and handed it over. I was involved, but I pretty much didn't argue with any of their decisions. But I said, I want the book to flow. I want it to feel like somebody's in the station wagon with the band while we're thinking about the next big thing we're going to do. And I want it to be an easy read, and I want it to be a fun read, because that's what the band was all about. So I think we accomplished that in a big way. I'm very proud of it.
So just like in music, when you put trust towards a producer, you put a lot of trust towards the people that are taking care of your book as well.
Exactly. They're experts.
They're experts.
I had Chris Hoddenfield wrote for Rolling Stone for a dozen years.
Yeah.
And he wrote the cover story for the Alice Cooper group in '72, the one where Alice has the snake around his contorted face on the cover. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that he had been there. I would save myself a lot of explanation trying to explain to a younger guy what it was like back then. And so I had him, expert writer, helping me accomplish what I had just said. And then I had a great publisher who they were all on the same wavelength. I even tested them all at our very first meeting. Publisher, agent, writer, and myself over beers. Well, the agent had 2 Bloody Marys, but the rest of us had beers. And a great salty old guy, Jim Fitzgerald, who's a wonderful agent. Anyway, so I tested him. I said things that I knew were wrong for where I wanted the book to go, and each one corrected me on those things. And I said to myself, man, this is the dream team. And that's how it turned out. A lot of hard work, but everybody was on the same wavelength, and I had an awful lot. Everything came through me. Still does. Every little decision comes through me.
So it must have felt great just knowing that, they were doing their homework, and, your comfort level must have just went right through the roof.
It was appropriate. It was like the Alice Cooper group, where you have these different various personalities that are somewhat specialized, but they all had the same vision.
Manolis, you had another question for Dennis?
Yeah, I was interested in the scrap heaps of papers that you were writing on through the years. It reminded me, I heard Jack Kerouac did that with on the road. And when you went back to it, was it just opened up your mind to this it was yesterday? And my second question, in case I don't get another one, is are you going to? Is the book possibly could be made into a movie?
I've done 25 interviews this morning, and that's the movie thing has come up before. I don't know. I think people automatically say that because I write in a visual way. I want you to picture it. I want the picture is putting you there. And I always thought like that because I've always been an artist. But I do not I can't even think about putting another thing on my plate right now. If somebody makes an offer, of course my ears will perk up. But as far as the scraps of paper and stuff, yeah, there were a few where I did, maybe if I got like a little slow time in my typing, I'd go back and flip through the scraps of paper and go, oh yeah, that's a good one. Let's write that down. But for the most part, I found out that I couldn't rely on other people's memories because I thought with the internet, I can go back and get in touch with people that knew the band all through our career and get them to sort of trigger memories for me. No, that's not how it happened. I had a lot of people telling me stories that were different than I know they happened. And also I got like someone giving me a 5-page story about making the band a spaghetti dinner. So as far as the notes I think mostly helped in the fact that I wrote them down in the first place, and that sort of etched them in my memory. But as far as flipping back through, I did find some, but I'd say probably most of them that I flipped through I already remembered, and I didn't really need the note.
Huh. How fast can you type now, Dennis?
It's only 2 fingers, Jimmy Breslin style. It's a good drinking beer, but pretty fast. Yeah.
I'm thinking like if you don't have too much on your plate, you could just hire yourself for university students just to type out their essays.
You know what the scary part is, though?
What?
Let's face it, typos are acceptable on social media, but whenever you've been around a copy editor, all of a sudden you find yourself really making sure every I is dotted and all of that.
Well, we were joking earlier saying that Manolis broke spell check.
I'm the slowest man. I'm way slower than you, trust me.
I always say autocorrect is shirt.
How can people get a hold of a book in the meantime?
As they tell me, everywhere a book is available. You can get it through
Chapters, Indigo,
Amazon. You can go to DennisDunaway.com, and I've got all kinds of guidelines there. The Strand Bookstore in New York City, you can go to Strand, and you can order an autographed copy from them. It's out there. It's on the shelves.
We're so proud of you, Dennis. Like, I mean, we're big fans of you, but just the fact that we know you as a person, and every Blue Coupe visit that you came up to Canada, we just found that, the process was getting closer and closer, and it was really getting exciting for us. And now that it's out, we feel like, we're just proud of you. We feel like, it's graduation day. You've passed.
Well, you saying that you're proud of me is a lot better than saying you're sick of hearing about the book.
No, are you kidding me? Like, we were really stoked about talking to you, and then can't wait to get a copy. Rob Sweeney got his today. He took a picture and shared it on Facebook. So,
all right, I have to get his critique, and he has to be brutal.
And that he can be. Before we let you go, I just want to ask you a question about Easy Action, which has always been probably my top 2 favorite Alice Cooper records of all time. What did David Briggs think working with you guys? Now, for people who are not familiar, David Briggs was the producer of the record. I've read all sorts of different stories, and I'm not entirely sure if you've covered this in your book, but how comfortable did he feel with you guys in that recording studio during the Easy Action recordings?
Well, let me start this off with something that'll be a big surprise to you. It's in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, David Briggs was from the, L.A. had the, besides the hippies and the freaks, there were also the Buffalo Springfield and Crazy Horse and all of that. Well, that's the camp that David Briggs came from.
Right.
That wear your fringe jacket even though it's too hot out.
Why was he chosen? Did you guys choose him, or?
It probably was a matter of getting somebody at short notice. Because we had to rush into the studio for contractual reasons, we felt. And we rushed in the studio before we were ready. We hadn't had enough time to prepare all the songs, so a lot of them were kind of written on the spot, which I don't think David was happy with. But it was like oil and water a bit, because he didn't like the way we dressed. Here, he's got the everything is brown that he wears, and we walk in with baby blue boots and stuff. And he was like not happy with that. We had just had a big accident, and our equipment was destroyed, and we didn't even have all of our equipment. Here's a trivia for your show that people don't know. I didn't have a bass, and I came in, and I'm like, I need to rent a bass or something, but I don't have any money. And he says, well, go look in the closet in there and see if there's a bass. And I went in, and the only bass in the closet, the studio, was a Hofner. And I'm going, oh man, a Hofner, that's not what I play. And I lifted it out. Glenn Buxton was leaning over my shoulder trying to be encouraging. Oh yeah, that'll sound good. And I lifted it out of the case, and I turned it over, and it said the Cowsills.
Oh, wild.
I used the Cowsills Hofner on Easy Action.
That's crazy. You know what? I
couldn't look at it. I had to close my eyes because I'm thinking it belongs to the Cowsills.
That's crazy.
I don't know if they recorded Hair with it. I love Hair.
Yeah.
The bass part on that, even though it's a little boogaloo for my taste, it's amazing. But David Briggs, he did loosen up. He played piano on Shoe Salesman, and he perked up. But when it came to recording Lay Down and Die Goodbye with our abstract Stockhausen-type sound collage, he hated that. He said, all right, let's put the psychedelic garbage on. And that really, we were not happy about that. We walked into the studio really, we weren't happy that he said that.
It's funny because I love that song, and I posted that today as the song leading up to just on my blurb on Facebook for the Lose Control page. And there's something that's just completely amazing about it. But what I love about it is when fans have created their own little visuals and video montages to kind of accompany the music that goes along with it. And it's just so remarkable to see how people, what their take of the song is. And it's such a crazy, but yet such an artistic song. How can you not like it?
Now, well, thank you, Lou. Yeah, next time you listen to it and you get into that crazy abstract distortion on the bass, just remember it's the Cowsill Hofner.
That's so crazy.
But when you play a Hofner, I have a Hofner, and they're very bubbly. Mm-hmm. That Paul McCartney bubbly style just automatically pops out. And where it really pops out on that album, I think, is Beautiful Fly Away.
Oh, cool. You're right. That's a great song.
It's very McCartney-ish.
That's right before Lay Down and Die Goodbye.
Yeah, so there I went with the bubbly bass, and I went with the nightmarish bass.
Should we play that as we say goodbye to you?
Sure.
I brought the Easy Action album to play, so your choice, whatever you'd like to hear off the record.
Beautiful Fly Away. Let's do it.
Folks, if you want to get your hand... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's going to jump in there, Lou, and say it's Michael Bruce is singing it and playing keyboards.
Thank you. I was just going to tell everybody that if you want to get your hands on a copy, anywhere that books are sold, go in and order your book or check it out. I'm sure there's copies that are on the shelves right now. Visit DennisDunaway.com, Amazon, anywhere that books are sold, you can get your hand on a copy and enjoy this story of the Alice Cooper Group. Dennis, congratulations. We're so proud of you, and we'll look forward to seeing you hopefully soon.
Thanks, Lou.
In the meantime...
Thanks, Manolis.
Thanks, dude.
We hope to see you in the Hammer soon.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and in the meantime, enjoy this great trip that this book offers you.
Okay, well, we're in pedal to the metal here.
Well, enjoy safely.
All right.
Take care, Dennis.
Lou.
Great to hear your voice again.
Rock on.
You bet. Bye-bye. Folks, that is Dennis Dunaway, the one and only Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, the incredible bass player of the Alice Cooper Group, who's just put out a book called Snakes, Guillotines, and Electric Chairs, and it always blows my mind that it's Dennis Dunaway, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking to him, and I'm looking at this album cover and going, yep, that's him right there. He's on the phone with us right now. I'm always on cloud nine when we get the chance to hook up with Dennis Dunaway.